Hello Rangers, welcome to Until the End of Time. My name is Veronica and this is going to be part 2 of my Prologue playthrough. So if you didn't catch it, I played through the first part of the Prologue, but after playing for I think about an hour, I got a little bit tired, so I promised that I would wrap up the Prologue another time. That's gonna be today. But before I get there, I actually have two other things in this video. I want to talk about how Earthborne Rangers is to play solo, and before that even, I want to do a small channel update. Let's start with that, because I know that there's at least some people who don't play Earthborne who might be interested in this. So this is going to be the last video for the summer. I am starting a new study literally tomorrow from time of recording. It's a new school. I'm pretty nervous. I have very little idea of what's awaiting me, and I hope to have some free time because I've seen the schedule and I think it's less heavy than the previous one that I was subjected to. But obviously, I'm going to be facing a lot of new stuff. I don't know what to expect. And so I just don't want to promise anything that I'm not going to be able to deliver on. So just for the sake of safety, I'm just saying this is going to be the last video you're going to see of me for a while. When I return, I think it's going to start by focusing back on Arkham, because this is still supposed to be an Arkham channel. And then maybe I'll be able to do some Netrunner or Earthborne content as well. I've really enjoyed doing Earthborne content. I heard a lot of people be very positive about this, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to me, because this is ultimately a hobby, right? Like, the reason why my study has to come first is that this is a hobby. I don't get paid for this. I don't really get rewarded for this other than seeing people who are very excited about my videos, and I do really appreciate that. I am definitely planning to be back for Arkham's Hemlock Vale expansion when that comes out. That's scheduled to be in a couple of months, so even if I haven't gotten the time that I need by then, I'm going to try to make it work somehow. And in general, thank you for sticking with me. It's going to be some change. I don't know what to expect, so in case you're curious, this is what's going on, and this is why you probably won't be seeing any videos for the next couple of months from me. Then I got this suggestion in the comments on my unboxing that we need a review for this game, and my reaction was basically, I don't think I've played enough to really review Earthborne Rangers. It's a game with a lot of depth, a lot of nuance, and I've only put a couple of hours into it. I've only barely scratched the surface. I've probably never played Shaper, so there's a lot going on that I just can't comment on, and I feel like giving a proper review is not going to be possible. However, one of the things that I know a lot of people care about and are very curious about is how does this game play solo? So one deck, one ranger, just by yourself, is that fun? And I hope to give my thoughts on that in this review. Quick spoiler warning, I will be talking about some of the sets that are not in the prologue itself, but only cards that are available in the demo. There are some examples that I probably could have used that would have been a bit more direct, but I decided no, we're only doing demo cards. And I might mention some cards that are happening up to the first 5 days of the main campaign, but nothing specific, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers there. So if you definitely don't want to see anything beyond the prologue, this is your cue to leave. But in general, I think this should be a pretty spoiler-safe video. So let's start with the solo review, and point one, it's fun. I think part of that is just we can end the review there. It's just fun. But I think it is important to note that when I play Arkham solo, it's often a bit stressful, right? There's a lot of chances things could go wrong, and Earthborne doesn't feel nearly as stressful. It feels fun, it feels engaging, it feels exciting. It really drives curiosity in me, which is a great thing, that if a game makes me curious about what it can do and how I can use it, I really find that enjoyable. So I think that just the game is fun in solo, very important. There's a lot of pressure on your deck build in solo. It feels similar to Arkham. If you've played that game, maybe it's not quite as tricky as solo decks in Arkham, but it is definitely not open-ended when you're playing solo with a single deck, because your deck has to be able to do a lot of specific things in order to function. Now, the reason why I think it's a little bit easier, in air quotes, easier, is not so much that the game is easier, but it's less punitive. If you get into a bad situation, that doesn't immediately punish you, right? If you're in Arkham and you get, especially in solo, and you get stuck with an early enemy, that can often just deal tons of damage to you before you're able to do anything, because anything you might try to do to get away from that monster might deal you damage or horror. In Earthborne Rangers, there's a lot fewer situations where if you do the wrong thing, let's say, you are immediately punished very hard, right? It's hard for the game to just, kill you out of nowhere, per se. But there are definitely points where I've had very tricky situations and only got out due to, careful play, deck building, maybe a little cheating. One of the things that specifically comes to mind is predators preying on humans, like other people in the valley. Can be very dangerous because when they get hurt, you typically have to end the day. So avoiding that definitely requires you to be on point and be aware when that crest icon threatens to hurt somebody. And the other thing that I think really struck me as being difficult for deck building is that it has very few options for you to change your deck after you've created it. Right, in Arkham, after every scenario, you hopefully earn some XP. If you didn't, ooh, that's bad. But, you have a chance to change your deck and maybe shore up weaknesses or build new strengths after every scenario, right? You put in XP cards, you get better, you change your weaknesses, you mess around with your deck and you get to grow your deck. In Earthborne Rangers, you don't really get to do that, right? You get rewards, which you can swap in, but those are not typically... Those are adding a little bit more oomph to your deck, perhaps, but not completely changing how it works. And if you want to add in other cards from the base sets, you have to find these specific people in order to make those changes. So, for example, Elder Murtok Kral, who is a village elder, you can talk to him, or rather listen to him, with a focus plus logic test. Well, that's a difficulty 3 test right there. So first of all, if you're not passing that test, and in solo it might be very difficult to pass that test, then you're already in a bit of trouble. But also you have to go find him, he's at White Sky, and then you can swap one of your moments in your hand to a different moment from the starter box. Ren Kobo, the merchant, you can find him around the valley. He lets you swap out your gear. So there are ways to change your deck, but you have to find these people and you have to engage with them somehow. And if your deck is already kind of struggling, then it's going to get, going out of your way to find these people and to interact with them is only going to make it more difficult. So, yeah, with that in mind, I think you have to start your deck building from a very clear perspective. You have to know what you're doing. And because of that, I kind of grabbed the common tests here, and I kind of want to walk through what I think each deck should be able to do. And I do want to emphasize here, if you're interested in this sort of stuff and learning about how to make a good deck for Earthborne Rangers, go listen to the recent episode by Drawn to the Flame. I'll put a link in the description. They talk about a lot of the more nuance of the game as well, and they also try to avoid spoilers wherever possible. So this is really talking about the basics plus one, right? It's still very much the core of the game, but it's also, how do you approach that? So first and foremost, there are two things that I think every group of Rangers needs to be able to do, and that's traverse and connect. These are your basic progress adding tests, right? These are the two common tests. The first adds progress to locations and features, and the second adds progress to beings. These are essential. If you're used to other card games, there's often a make progress mechanic, right? And here it's literally called progress. If you want to accomplish the thing, you're typically going to have to add progress. These two tests do that for you. The rulebook, in fact, states that it recommends Rangers who are playing solo to have at least a fitness of 2 so they can traverse. I would amend that by saying I also think you probably want to have a spirit of 2 because you're going to need to connect to things. There are ways to get progress on beings that do not involve the connect test. There's also ways of getting progress or to do connect tests even if you have a low spirit. But in both of those cases, you really have to build around that. And I think in general, having a reasonable spirit is going to make your adventures in the valley a lot easier. And then there are 3 more things that I think are maybe a little less obvious that I also think most of your decks and most of your groups need to do. And keep in mind, if you're building for 2-player, for 3-player, for 4-player, you can kind of, hand these out, right? One person can be the traverse person, one person being connect person, one person can be the avoid person. But if you're playing solo, you're going to have to look at all of these things and be like, how does my deck accomplish this? So next up is Soothe Fatigue. This is a mechanic that I did explain in the previous video, but very briefly, when you are interacting with things around you, you may suffer fatigue. You may also suffer fatigue for failing certain tests or for other reasons, the weather, stuff like that, which are cards you take from the top of your deck, you put to the side face down, and then when you soothe fatigue, you actually draw those cards. They get added to your hand. So this is a potentially very powerful way of actually gaining card advantage, gaining tempo by voluntarily taking a little bit of fatigue and then soothing that fatigue. You can get a bunch of draw that can then either be cards you play or cards you commit to tests. Either way can be very helpful. So it's important that cards that you suffer for fatigue aren't just gone forever. You need to have a way to get this back. Next up, avoiding. Now I think avoiding is less important than traversing or connecting. You can get away without it. And as a reminder, how avoid works is you test equal to the difficulty of the presence of a being, and you exhaust that being if you succeed. This is not as relevant, I think, as connecting or traversing. Specifically, connecting is a way to get rid of most beings permanently or indefinitely, right? You fill them up with progress and then they clear. Avoiding is a more temporary solution, but it is also potentially a pretty powerful solution, and specifically in situations where connecting is either very difficult or very might not work in one go. Avoiding can be a nice way of getting an enemy or a predator specifically to stand down for a little bit, so you have options to deal with it. It's not as mandatory, but it is nice to be able to do. And then finally, something that I didn't expect to want, but I found myself really lacking in my deck, was scouting path cards. So if you're coming from a game like Arkham, and this is an Arkham channel, so I'm going to use it as my guideline, you're used to the encounter deck being bad cards, right? And so you're used to effects that let you draw encounter cards are almost always a cost, right? The classic example here is Drawn to the Flame. Normally, in order to discover 2 clues at a location, you would pay probably around 4 resources. Here you get it for 0 resources, but you have to draw an encounter card. The encounter card is the cost you pay for getting those clues. In Earthborne Rangers, that's really not the case. A lot of path cards are cards you want to draw, and you often are going to want to be able to manipulate the deck using the scout mechanic. Now, as a reminder, when you scout, you look at that many cards. So, for example, for Eagle Eye, you scout 3 cards, so you look at those 3 cards. You can put them back on top in any order, or on the bottom in any order, or splitting them however you want. So it's really a powerful way to manipulate the path deck. And this is important because there are cards in the path deck that you want to draw. I've grabbed a couple of examples here. Ura Voss, the Traveler, is a human from the Valley set. You might run into her in the wilds. And she has this ability where you can focus plus navigate to ask her who she has encountered during her travels, to search the Valley set for a human and shuffle them into the path deck. This is a very powerful ability, right? It lets you find a human from a specific set, the Valley set, but there's some really useful people in that set. The merchant from earlier is in that set, so if you just need to switch out an item, a piece of gear, then you can talk to Ura Voss, but then you have to shuffle the merchant into the path deck. If you're playing solo and you're only drawing 1 path card at a time, that path deck might have 10, 12, 14 cards in it by the time you draw Ura. Well, are you going to sit there and wait 10 turns to draw through the path deck 1 card at a time to try to find the person you shuffled in there? It's not really efficient. It's not really worth trying. Whereas if you have a scout effect, you can put a bunch of cards that aren't the card you shuffled in to the bottom and at least get yourself a little closer. Similarly, the search mission is a pretty generic mission, one you can run into several times during the course of the campaign, and it has the ability that every time a feature comes into play, assuming you're not at a ranger station, you put 2 trail tokens on that feature. And then when you clear a card with trail tokens, you place those tokens on the search mission. When you get to 4 ranger trail tokens, you flip the mission. Well, obviously, you will draw into some number of features just during the course of the game. Being able to scout the path deck and put more features to the top, as well as drawing those features much faster, will let you perform this mission a lot better and a lot quicker. Waiting for these to come up might really slow you down. If you draw a couple of predators in a row, then you're really having to deal with those predators, whereas if you could just scout a couple of the predators to the bottom and find a feature, even if that feature is itself kind of hard to clear, it means that you can keep pressing on and keep doing the tempo, which I found in this game is really something you can do, right? There's often a situation where you can do 2 Clearing 2 path cards in a turn isn't that hard, but having to wait to find the right path card, that takes ages. And finally, something like the Loose Leaf Tea Kit, right? This is a card from the Forager set, and the Forager really likes Flora cards. When you add damage to a Flora, you can add herbs to this tea kit, and then you can use those herbs to get extra energy. This is a pretty straightforward card, and obviously the Forager does have some extra ways of getting Flora out, but again, if you don't have any Flora out, the Loose Leaf Tea Kit doesn't do anything, right? And I've had it sitting there for a couple of turns in a row, not doing anything, either because I didn't get a Flora, or because I didn't find the card that get me the Flora, right? There are situations where this really isn't doing anything for you, and scouting a couple of cards can really change that around, right? There's Flora in most sets, so it is eventually gonna work, and scouting can really help you set up that path deck. So, what kind of cards can you include to help scout? Traveler has the Eagle Eye card, and I think this is the moment that I would point to people as being a good outside interest if you haven't done anything. Like if you don't have an idea for an outside interest and you don't have any scouts in your deck yet, grab this card. It's a very simple card. You only need awareness 1, you pay 1 awareness energy, you scout 3 path cards, you draw a path card. There's a bunch of ways to scout path cards with a skill test, but this one is guaranteed to get you 3 path cards, which is actually like a big amount, right? I didn't put it in the slide, but so far I've mostly seen path decks or being about 10 to 15 cards roughly. This is getting you through potentially like a quarter of the deck in 1 card. If you're just looking for 1 card, because you can just go look at the top 3, none of these are the card I'm looking for. All right, then all 3 go on the bottom. I draw the 4th card, and even if that's not the one, I now know that the next 8 cards, if say it's a 12 card deck, it's in there. So I've already reduced the amount of cards I need to look through by about a third, or about a fourth in that case. Yeah. So I think Eagle Eye is a card that I really slapped on, a card I really underestimated, and a card I wish I put in my deck. Similarly, Riri the Sparrowhawk. I don't think I need to tell a lot of people that they need to put companions in their deck, because companions are super cute and people want them. But Riri can exhaust to put damage on a being, potentially very useful. I've so far gone without weapons and not really have a problem with that. Don't need to hurt people to get things done in this game. But you can also awareness plus logic to survey, scout path decks, path cards equal to your effort, then draw a path card again. And the nice thing about Riri is that you can probably do this on a turn where you know that you have some energy left over, you have some cards in your hand to deal with whatever comes up, and so you can, maybe you drew a path card that didn't impact you that badly, or maybe you drew another villager or somebody who isn't going to get in your way. You do this test, you find the card you're looking for, you can immediately try to clear that, and it just helps you get through the game so much faster. Finally, I wanted to give a shout out to Shaper, because I haven't really gotten a chance to play with them much, but they've got some of the wildest effects, and so I wanted to shout out Seen Through Cycles. This lets you just choose a being in play, shuffle it in the path deck, search the path deck, and discard for a being, put it into play. So you can change any being into any other being. This card's wild. I love it. I love the idea of Shaper. I haven't gotten a chance to play with them much, but I think that they're really cool. I do want to point out that, you know, if you're looking for a specific kind of feature, right, you're looking for that flora, or you're looking for something to find the search mission things with, this doesn't help you. But I do think that it's kind of this example of how Shaper does things a little differently. You're not scouting the path deck to find that one person. You just pull them out, right? You just grab them. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a specific kind of feature, the Shaper can't help you with that. It's depth versus breadth. So that is something that I kind of listed off now. These are the things that I want my deck to do, which brings me to kind of an interesting conclusion. Should you just always put focus as your lowest stat? So if we're looking at the basic tests that you perform in this game, you're going to be traversing with fitness, you're going to be connecting with spirits, you're going to be avoiding with awareness, and you can recall with focus. Now recalling is kind of nice. You can use it to scout your own deck and then draw cards from your deck. But one of the things that I found is that it's not that hard to soothe fatigue, which is something you can do with basically every stat. Right, there's cards in various different configurations that can let you soothe fatigue, and I in fact found that I had way too much soothing in my deck and didn't have nearly enough fatigue to actually be drawing. And the cards that I wanted to get, I could just get by taking some fatigue, even in situations where I didn't necessarily have to, but by getting myself a little bit of fatigue, I could then draw a bunch of cards. And then I didn't really need to use focus to recall anything. It wasn't that important. And so, obviously, this is only for solo, right? This is definitely, if you're playing solo, this is more important, because I do want to point out, focus isn't bad. There's a bunch of really cool focus cards. In fact, I'm going out on a limb saying that I think focus has some of the best, or not the best, but some of the cooler 3 attribute cards. Cards like Hidden Thrill let you run across the map at a breakneck pace. The Nidosid Sentinel lets you just cancel challenge effects on a being, which can be incredibly powerful when you're dealing with some of these scarier beings. I've already dealt with a Biomeld a couple of times that I really wish I had something like this. And even something like a Deeper Understanding lets you just change, let you move things around however you want, and it's really cool. I don't want to hate on focus or say that, oh, the game is terribly balanced, you should just always nerf focus. But if you're going by solo play, you should probably consider which stat you need to have at a 1, because you're going to need all your other stats to do these basic tests. And at that point, I do wonder if it's worth giving up one of these other stats to boost your focus. If, for example, okay, if there was an attribute card that was 2-2-2-2, I think I would be happy with focus at 2. But since I can't do that, I have to dump a stat. It's probably focus. Sorry, focus. That being said, I look forward to a lot of people in the comments pointing out their amazing solo decks that have focus 3, and they just completely break the game with their focus 3 decks. I don't know. It's too early for me to say definitively how this plays out. I do think that a lot of the time I'm just taking basic tests supported by maybe a single card. And in that kind of situation, I just want the attributes that I'm using to take those tests to be as high as possible. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of coming back here. I think the game's just fun, right? I hope the excitement's coming through my voice. I like this game. I think it's very fun. I've played about 5 hours now, I think, solo. I had nothing else to do this weekend, and I really just wanted to get some hours in before school started. And yeah, I like this game. I think it's fun. If you are considering this game and you are a solo person, or you're just wondering if this game supports solo play, I'd say go for it. It definitely does, and you can play this game solo. It is going to be fun. So that brings me to the end of my solo review. I'm now going to proceed into Tabletop Simulator to show you the second part of the prologue. Alright, and we're back with our ranger in the prologue. So, if you haven't caught the prologue, make sure to check out the live tab on my YouTube channel. I did that one as a live stream, and so I actually had some difficulty finding it. I had to recreate my deck as the save game I was using for this. I think I might have just misplaced it, or if I got the save, woe me. I recreated my deck. If that means something is slightly amiss or doesn't look how you remember, sorry, but also, I did my best. Where we were, as a quick reminder, we are newly initiated rangers, right? We have come to the valley, we have become rangers, and we have traveled from the Ancestors' Grove to Boulderfield, where we chatted with Calypsa, our main mentor, and we are now going to head to, I believe it's Lone Tree Station? Yeah, Lone Tree Station. Before we do that, however, we are going to pick out our specialty. Specialty is your class, your role in a group. It is a very important choice. I don't think it is the most important choice. There are definitely other considerations, right? Your aspects are very important. Which background you take is actually very important. But this one gives you a role card, and as you may notice, each of the role cards has an exhaust ability that does something. So this is an ability you will always have access to. Now, I asked in the live stream last time which role I should play, and people were talking about Explorer above all. So let's look at the two Explorers. We have the Undaunted Seeker. Exhaust. When you perform a test, dodge one card, or Peerless Pathfinder, move your Ranger token to a feature. That feature fatigues you. Now, both of these introduce elements we haven't really seen before, but don't worry. What is dodging? Dodging is actually very straightforward. Dodging means that basically pick a card between you and the thing that you are doing. So, for example, if I were interacting with Boulder Field and there's a feature along the way, I could dodge that feature. That feature would not fatigue me, and I believe the icons on that, or the challenge icons, would not activate on that if I pulled a challenge card. So, for example, let me just pull it up, just so I know I'm not talking out of my behind. Because this is the kind of rule. This is the kind of rule you don't see all the time, and specifically my ranger that I've been playing solo with isn't this one, so I haven't dodged anything yet recently. I know it's a pretty powerful effect. Additional concept, dodge. Some game effects allow you to dodge cards when you are performing a test. When you dodge cards, those cards do not count as being between you and the card which you're interacting. Dodges way do not fatigue you. Obstacle keyword, they do not prevent you from interacting. Sorry, I am wrong. Those cards are still considered to be active, so the challenge effects still trigger. Sorry, their challenge effects do trigger, but you can avoid obstacles this way. That's the thing. Alright. The other effect, or the other one, is the Peerless Pathfinder. You can move your Ranger token to a feature. This is not as useful in solo, but it is potentially quite useful in multiplayer. The way that works, and it is also in the rules somewhere. Let me let me find to properly source my thing. I think it's under performing a test. Where's the Ranger token? Ranger tokens. Each ranger has a single Ranger token unique to them. Move the card in play representing that card, requiring your Ranger's undivided attention or physical presence. When your Ranger token is on a card in play, each other Ranger receives +1 effort to any test they perform interacting with that card. This bonus is cumulative for each Ranger token presence. Some cards, instead of a program threshold, are marked with the Ranger symbol. These cards are cleared when every Ranger's token is on the card. When your Ranger token to be discarded or is not on a card, move it to your roll card. So this is a kind of representing your location within the region. It is a powerful effect to be able to testlessly and actionlessly move this anywhere, as well as mentioned, it boosts your team, right? If you have a group that all needs to contribute to a certain feature, moving your token to that feature gives everybody else a +1. The challenge is, if you're playing solo, like I am for this demo, then that effect is pretty minor, so the only time this becomes relevant is if you're dealing with a feature that has a requirement to move your token there in order to clear it. There's a couple of those that I've run into already, and again, being able to clear those without having to take a test, pretty nice, but we're going to go with the Undaunted Seeker for now. So you pick your roll card. That one obviously doesn't go into your deck. It does have the same card back, that's interesting. But yeah, your roll card doesn't go into your deck. And then, after you've picked your roll card, you now pick out 5 cards, 2 copies each, to add to your deck. I'm just going to make sure. Yep. If we chose Shaper, we would have to pick our Conduit, and that one would start in play. Conduits are the magic sticks of the Shapers, and they specifically let you perform these manifestations. We are not doing Shaper, so we are not beholden to those. And it's worth saying that each of the sets has a 3 in each attribute, which means that a lot of these cards are actually cards we cannot take, because our attributes are 2 awareness, 3 spirit, 2 fitness, 1 focus. So we cannot take, for example, the Field Journal or the Hidden Trail. We cannot take Affronted by Nature, and we cannot take Share in the Valley Secrets, because those cards are not, we do not match the requirements for those. Which actually makes choosing your specialty cards pretty straightforward, because you typically only have a couple of choices. Let's start with the spirit cards. So Cradle by the Earth. Choose a trill. Suit fatigue equal to the number of progress on that trill. This fatigue may be divided as you choose between all rangers. This is an incredibly powerful effect in multiplayer. I'm just going to say it. I don't think this is actually that powerful in solo play. Suiting fatigue isn't that hard, I found. And you don't typically want to have like 6 or more fatigue on your character, because there's often predators that care about how much fatigue you have. So I would rather have an effect that lets me suit 1 or 2 fatigue several times than have this where I just have to fatigue a lot, or clear a lot of fatigue. But I can imagine in multiplayer this card being crazy good, where you can just suit like 8 fatigue, but it's across everybody, so everybody just gets 2 extra cards. Breathe into it. When you perform a test, discard any number of cards from your fatigue stack. Commit an effort for every 2 cards discarded this way. also powerful, but all right. Walk with me. After you succeeded a traverse test, add progress to a being equal to your effort. This is in addition to standard effect. This is fantastic. This basically lets you double up on a test, right? You can potentially clear a being and a obstacle or do something else at the same time. Very nice card. Definitely want that one. Yeah. The photoscopic headset. When a ranger scouts, increase the number of cards scouted by 1. You just have to exhaust it. It doesn't take up any. It doesn't use any tokens. It does take up one of our gear slots. So let's quickly check our deck and see how we're doing on those, because this is actually kind of important, right? Gear, I think I've mentioned this previously, has a requirement, a number of slots you can take. Those are those 5 little boxes on the top right. Perhaps this whistle, for example, takes up one of our 5 slots. Riri is a companion, a being, and therefore doesn't take up any slots. And that's the only gear we have. So we are pretty good to go on gear. So we could potentially add a bunch of gear to our deck and not have to worry too much about our slots. Specifically, I was already looking at the HydroLens goggles. These let us scout. I was just talking about how scouting is actually really important in solo. So I think I'm going to grab the HydroLens goggles and the phonoscopic headset, because those two work very nicely together. Obviously, in multiplayer, this would be a potential combo with other people's cards, but I think even in solo, this is probably worth playing both these cards. Plus, since we can only take a single card from focus, because we only have a focus of 1, it's nice to be able to take this and actually enjoy taking it. Okay, so that leaves me with 2 cards left to pick out of the 3 options left. A Leaf in the Breeze. When you traverse, dodge up to 3 cards. I don't know. The problem here is that it's only on traverse tests. Dodging is kind of nice, but I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that we're not often going to have 3 cards between us and the traverse thing. And the other problem is that while this is very nice for being able to traverse past obstacles, you still have to clear the obstacles to be able to travel. So I think I'm okay without these, but fortunately the other 2 cards are both pretty nice. So the Boundary Sensor, when a ranger performs a traverse test, commit 1 effort. So you pay 1 energy and basically get 4 effort out of that single energy. It does take up 2 slots, but we're still not really at capacity. And even if we are, we don't necessarily have to have all our gear in play at the same time. So even when we then pick up the hiking stave, that's fine, right? We're probably going to have the hiking stave in play as well as, say, the goggles and the boundary sensor, but then we just spend all of our sensors on the sensor, and then we can play our headset and the whistle. So that's fine. I don't think we're going to run into a lot of gear issues. You start seeing gear issues very frequently if you have a lot of 2s, like 3 or 4 different pieces of gear that all take up 2 slots. Then you're going to be in trouble. If that's looking like it's going to happen, I do want to point out that there is a background card called the Pocketed Belt Pouch. It reduces the equip value of all your gear by 1 to a minimum of 1. The equip value is not the cost of playing the card, that's the amount of slots it takes up. So the belt pouch makes all of your cards basically gear 1, because I think there's nothing that has 3 equip value. So that might be worth running if that's the kind of thing you're running into. This could be your outside interest. We'll get to that in a little bit. So with these cards, we're just going to put everything together. Shuffle our deck, and our objective for the round. So you'll note we have a 28 card deck. The final deck is going to be 30 cards because we're going to get an outside interest, which is basically 1 card, 2 copies of a single card that we want. But for now, we're just going to draw 6 cards. And our objective for the round is to travel to Lone Tree Station, which is just along the way. So we just have to clear Boulderfield. Let's draw 6 cards. All right. We have the sheepdog. Fear me. So looking at our options here. Well, so first things we should do is draw not a challenge card, sorry, a path card. We got a Sitka Buck. This seems fine. I don't think I want to stick the hawk on him. I don't think... I don't really think I have to interact with this very much because we're not really in any kind of danger. So I think I'm just going to play this boundary sensor. So this comes into play with 4 tokens on it. Those are progress counters. And then we can exhaust this and use the sensor to get 1 effort on any traverse test we're performing. Yeah, I think we're just going to spend our second fitness and exhaust this, use 1 token to try to traverse here. And since we have it, let's perform a test, dodge 1 card. I will dodge the Sitka bug. So this no longer fatigues me, but its challenge icons can still activate. Let's draw from a challenge deck. It is a 0, and it is the crest icon. So 0 means that because I got +1 from the boundary sensor, that means a 2. So let's add 2 progress to Boulder Field. Crest icon, if there's an active Sitka doe, the bug charges, suffer an injury. There is not, we're fine. Alright. We can't really continue here. Problematically, we are kind of out of fitness energy, so we can't really keep going. But fortunately, we can still play some cards and kind of set up for the next turn. So let's bring out Riri and Oru. And I think part of the reason why these cards are so good is that despite the fact that they are like, they act like gear in many ways because they have abilities you can activate and they help you basically build a board. Because they are beings and not gear, they don't take up any slots. So you don't have to worry about that part. And, you know, Oru is a sheepdog, so what's not to love there? Oru has a very powerful ability. You can exhaust him to add to move a being, which means from within reach to along the way or vice versa. But that also adds to progress. So without doing anything, we could potentially use Oru to just clear the Sitka bug, not really having to do anything. This is part of the reason why Oru is so good. Finally, I'm not that worried about getting hurt, and I like the headset. So let's put down the Protosonic headset, and then do we take a test here? So this is an interesting thing, something that Drum to the Flame also talked to in their podcast, is you don't always have to spend all your energy, right? It's perfectly fine not to spend all your energy. We could spend an energy here to try to connect to the Sitka bug, but like, does it help us, right? The odds of us passing are not amazing. They're not terrible. 1-to-1 is actually not a bad test at all in this game, but we don't really, there's not a lot to gain here, and it's fine to just pass the test, right? Drawing challenge icons is dangerous in this game. Or dangerous, maybe dangerous, wrong word. You are opening yourself up to stuff happening. So let's instead end the round. We draw a card, and we remove the last clouds from this perfect day, flipping it to the midday sun. When we refresh, we add a cloud to this card. If there are 3 or more clouds, flip this card. And then the ability is focus plus logic to locate shade, wait out the blaring sun, add a cloud to this card, soothe the fatigue, and now it has a sun effect, we suffer a fatigue. This is the weather getting slightly less friendly. Alright, we draw from the path deck, we draw a prowling wool hunt. If there's another predator in play, this predator comes into play exhausted. As a sun, it can ready another prowling wool hunt, which is can be very annoying. You try to keep them down and they just keep readying each other. And then if you have 3 or more fatigue, exhaust is being suffer an injury. This is what I was talking about earlier. These are not that dangerous early on, but if you have a lot of fatigue, this can really start hurting. It's also worth pointing out, I completely forgot this, but the Boulder Field actually makes the presence of all beings reduced by 1, so the Sitka bug wouldn't have fatigued me if I hadn't dodged it. If anybody already caught that, good on you, but also you're not, you know, there's no prize. Alright, I think for this, let's see. I think I want to start by trying to evade, or void, sorry, in this game it's called avoid, this Prowling Wallhunt. Because it is a predator, predators are scary. Let's try to just spend 1 energy and commit this balanced, because it's only presence of 1. So if you succeed, you can suffer fatigue, gain energy of any type. It's very nice. Awareness +1, we succeed, and we get the mountain. So resolving this in the proper order. First thing, resolve the effect of the test. We exhaust this. We also take 1 fatigue, and we get an energy of any type, and I want that to be... I think I want that to be an awareness energy, because I'd like to play the goggles. But also I can play the goggles next turn. I'll take a fitness energy, please. Yeah. I'm trying to think like what makes for the best viewing experience as well, obviously. Then we resolve the mountain icon. If there's an active predator, it hurts the Sitka bug. Well, guess what? He just got exhausted, so nothing to worry about there. Alright, now let's just go for it, right? We're ready to go. Spend our 3 fitness energy and our boundary sensor to try to traverse the boulder field again. It's a -1 and it's a sun icon. Alright, so -1, we are committed 3 fitness plus the boundary sensor, that's 4. -1 is 3. That's a clear. Excellent. Then, sun icon. First up, the weather. We take a fatigue. Then, here, if there's another Sitka bug, exhaust it. There is not. And this is exhausted, so it doesn't do anything. Alright. We could now do other things, right? We could try to clear the Sitka bug, but we're going to travel right now, which kind of clears the board anyway. So I'm just going to go to the rest phase. Is there a round? There is not a round card, but here's the round card. I am going to rest, which means I'm going to choose to travel. And when I choose to travel, I travel to Lone Tree Station. You emerge from a line of trees and find yourself walking through a vast rolling field. In the distance, you see the towering form of Lone Tree Station, rising against the clear blue sky. And on the breeze, you smell the hint of something sweet. Someone baking? The prologue is nearly complete. Take some time to tidy up the play area, gather your deck, discard ball, fatigue stack, and hand it to your ranger deck, set it aside. Get the path card, return it to their sets. Deck building by choosing your ranger's outside interest. Usually you choose your outside interest for the entire starting pool, and this time we will also be doing that-ish. We will be taking... Alright, so if I look at my deck right now... I am pretty happy with our ability to add progress to things, right? We have effects like the Walk With Me, which can add progress to beings when we traverse. We have Boundary Sensor, which adds effort to our traverse. We have a Homeward Bound that lets us move progress from a being to a feature. So that's all great. We also have some scouting, which I talked about the importance of scouting early in this video. The only thing that is kind of missing is a way to consistently soothe fatigue, right? Our fatigue soothing isn't bad. We have Oru. Oru is fantastic, obviously. And we have, I think we have one more card, right? We had something else that suited fatigue. I thought we had something else to serve fatigue, but if not, that would answer my question. I think we're a little short on fatigue soothing. So, in order to shore that up, I'm going to grab a card that helps us soothe fatigue. What are our recommended cards? Because I believe the rulebook does come with a couple of recommended cards for soothing fatigue. One little further. There we go. Outside interest. The Fair Index helps with avoiding. Boundary Sensor, we already got that one. Intention Translator helps with connecting. Iron Wool Boots are interesting. That one lets you soothe fatigue whenever you play a moment. This deck doesn't have a ton of moments, so I don't think that's the one. Favorite Gear. Whenever we use a token, we get to soothe fatigue. Or the one that let's see, we do have Boundary Sensors, which are, and we have these goggles. That's a good one. Okay, which set was that in? Familiar or favorite gear is the Artisan Background set. So this is, after you use a token from the attached gear, soothe 1 fatigue. Very nice. I'm considering this card. The only other card that I was already thinking that fills a very similar role. Let me see. This is the thing, right? I haven't memorized the entire sets already. Here, the Tromix. Tromix is a fantastic card and one that I think kind of won my heart when Team Covenant played this game for the first time. So the way that this works is it's a 2-fit piece of gear, and then you can exhaust it to have a ranger soothe fatigue equal to their fit energy in their energy pool. If you have a 3-fit ranger at your table, this card is bananas. It's also an 8 card, and there is one roll card that can give extra tokens to aid cards. There's also a couple of effects I've already seen that interact with food. However, I think in this case we are going favorite gear. We only have 2 fitness, which means that the turn we want to play this, we are down to 0 fitness after we play this. So we have to wait around in order to actually begin soothing anything, which is not how favorite gear is going to work out, right? Favorite gear is going to get us something right away. And I know that the instructions were to like clean up the entire play area. I'm going to choose to pointedly ignore that, mostly because I think it is, I want to wrap up this video by doing a little bit more playing. And for that, I'm actually just going to travel to the Lone Tree Station, perform the first 4 steps. You made it. Just look at you. So there's a bunch of story here. Read it on your own time. It's on Earthborne Rangers, their website, if you want to read it. There are now a bunch of missions available. We get a perfect day, and we will do the Woods and Lone Tree Station sets. So let me grab, where did Lone Tree Station go? There it is. We are back to perfect day. This gets shuffled back in. And now we grab the Lone Tree Station set and the Wood set. We already had that one. Shuffle them together. That's our path deck. I'm just going to choose to keep all this in play and just pretend like I just arrived here like I was normally traveling. Which means that I have to resolve the Lone Tree Station setup, search the path deck for the next predator, and discard it. Alright. What's the top card? Is it the... Yep, okay. Just making sure that... So we find the next predator, which is a Wolfhound. We discard it. And then we draw a path card. Well, we shuffle and then we draw a path card. It's an overgrown ticket. This is a Flora, so if we are the florist? No, herbalist? No, the tea making person. We can use this as a source of our latest food. It's also an obstacle, unfortunately, which means that we cannot interact with Lone Tree Station until we get past the overgrown ticket. We can clear it either using the normal traverse test or an awareness plus navigate to hunt. But if we keep it in play and do not clear it, but we do have progress on it, it can start fatiguing us. Okay, that's the location setup done. So we draw a card and then we go to the start of the round. We draw an encounter card. Sorry, a path card. Arkham Brain. Set Cadeau. Alright. So you may encounter this in the campaign as well. We don't have a mission right now. We don't have a clear objective. But instead, we're just left to our own devices and kind of get to do whatever we want, which I really love, right? I love a game where you can just kind of figure out what you want to do yourself. And to start, I really want this Citcado to get out of the way so we can start interacting with this overgrown ticket. So we're just going to exhaust Ori the Sheepdog to move a being and add 2 progress to it. So the Citcado isn't exhausted, but it is moved, which means that it is no longer within reach and therefore won't be fatiguing us when we start to interact with the overgrown ticket. Well, let's go do that then. Oh, this should be... Sorry. I had 1 fitness token too much. I will spend the fitness token and a boundary sensor. There's... I guess potentially this could backfire, but it's probably fine. So 2 efforts. I think I want to go for 3 efforts, just in case I draw a -1, because I want to clear this in 1 action, if possible. So draw a challenge card. It is a -1. And so the way that this works is, even though this has the mountain icon, and therefore would discard, we're resolving the effects of the test first, which means that we add 2 progress. That clears this, and then this effect isn't going to trigger. If this test add a progress, add an additional progress, well, a bit too late for that. And if there's an active predator exhausted and hurts the Citcado, there are no active predators. So we're all good. Alright, with our obstacle out of the way, we can now explore the environment around Lone Tree Station a little bit easier. And in order to help do that, I think we're going to spend 2 awareness energy to play the Hydro Lens goggles. These come in with 3 tokens. And we can use our awareness to clarify scout path cards and then draw a path card. Unfortunately, we don't have the energy for that right now. I guess we could also just have used the search here, but what's the point of having cards in your deck if you don't use them? Is there anything else I want to do? No, I think I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to pass the turn. Rest, I think it's called in the game terminology. Ready all of this, draw a card, and draw a new path card. And that's the thing, because path cards are so often not bad for you, it's fine to just draw an extra one sometimes. See here, the Sunbury Bramble. They get into the way a little bit, but they're also just a source of fatigue soothing. And if you are making tea, they're also a source of delicious, delicious tea leaves. They can even cause the Sitka Doe to start eating on the Sunbury Bramble, because it has that crest icon, or sorry, the mountain icon. So yeah, it's fantastic. And because of that, I think I'm just going to start by performing this Hydrolens Goggle. So I have to test awareness plus logic. Thinking. Do I want to do... I think I want to do this first. So first I'm going to focus. I'm going to remember my training. There's a couple of cards in my deck I think I need. So let's start with that. +1. And the crest icon, but there's no crest icons in the deck. So scout 2 cards and then draw 1 ranger card. I'm happy with 2. I don't feel the need to exhaust the photoscopic headset because I might want to use that for the Hydrolens goggles later. So we're going to scout 2 cards. Neither of these are the cards that I'm really interested in right now, because we don't have a problem with either of these things. So let's put both of those to the bottom. And that's very important. When you scout 2 cards, you can just put both of them to the bottom and draw a 3rd card, which is a photoscopic headset. Okay, I guess we're doing that today. In that case, let's spend our awareness energy and try to use these goggles. We'll spend a drop and scout path cards equal to your effort, then draw a path card. +1. Wow, that's a lot. So we had 2 effort committed from our awareness tokens. We get a +1, which is 3. And then we're, of course, going to exhaust our phonoscopic headset to make it 4. So we're going to scout 4 path cards and then draw a path card. So our 4 cards are a Sitka Buck, one that you're probably familiar with right now. Another Overgrown Thicket, another Sunbury Bramble, and him Pipot the Chef. I definitely want to see what's up with him. So let's put these 2 back on the bottom. I'm going to put the Sunbury Bramble second from the top, because I feel like that's a nice card to have around. Worst case scenario, it's not that bad of an obstacle to get through. It's not going to stop me from doing much. And let's put him on the top, but then we draw a path card, so let's draw him Pimpot. And he has a entry, so that's a at the top of his card, top right, there's a little book and 47. So let's go read entry 47 in the book. Him Pipot the Chef enters play, goes to 47.1. You hear high shrill whistling long before you see him. It's said that every ranger in the valley has tried to teach Pimpot a new song to whistle, but none of them have succeeded. Eventually you spot the stout little gnome of a man intently chopping and mixing vinegary-smelling herbs and vegetables into a large bowl. Good, good, you're here, he says without looking at you. Try this stew. I need to know if I've hit the right balance between pleasant heat and tongue searing. What does it need? Kelpweed? Morning root? You can help High Pimpot by gathering ingredients for the stew, or you can clear him with progress to ask him how to make the stew as good as possible. Alright, so what do we have on the card itself? He is friendly, so he's not gonna be he's not gonna be fatiguing us when we interact past him. And as a awareness plus logic harvest, local plans for the stew to attach a flora face down to High. If there are 3 flora attached to High, he prepares his famous stew. Alright, well we definitely want that. So we already have 1 flora here. But we did just run out of energy. Oh, I think I forgot to take this down. Sorry about that. Oh, right. Before we forget, this test also had a crest icon. It didn't add progress, and there are no active predators, but there is an active prey. So we're going to exhaust this, add 1 progress to it, and add a damage here, representing that the Sitkado has been eating some of our sunberry brambles. Actually, potentially a problem because we want those brambles for the stew. So let's go make sure that they aren't all eaten before we can get any. However, we can now use Oru, the sheepdog, to move a being and add 2 progress to it. So let's move the Sitkado over here, add 2 progress, which is enough to clear it because we now have... And that's taken care of. This presumably represents Oru just barking at the Sitkado until it moves off. We don't have to do that. Is this just the same as this? Oh, I just realized that. The HydroLens goggles and Riri are the exact same effect. So maybe this is not a good card to have in my deck. Oh well. I can't harvest because we don't have any more awareness energy. We could talk, but I don't think we have to. But what we can do is try to put some progress on Lone Tree Station. In case we want to travel away, it's pretty nice to be able to do that. So let's spend our 2 fitness energy and the last of our sensors from the boundary sensor to traverse for 3. And we can dodge this to avoid taking any fatigue. -1. So that is 2 progress. But because we hit the crest icon, it's a +1. So we have now cleared this. We don't have to do anything with that right now. We can just leave it there. But it does mean that unless we draw an obstacle, we can always just leave when we need to. Which is pretty nice. I found that to be, that's a bit of advice that Drawn to the Flame gave. And that's a good advice, right? Try to put progress on the location early on in the game. That way you can leave when you need to. Let's rest. Drawing our card. Drawing a path card, which we know what it is. It's going to be another one of those brambles because we scouted. We drew our hiking stave, which... If we play that, would put us over our capacity, but our boundary sensor just ran out, so that's not necessarily a problem. But first, let's focus on what's important, which is getting ourselves some more of that delicious stew. It's logic, which I don't have any of. I've run out of logic. Let's start with trying to focus. Remember, test 0. All right, so we would scout one ranger card and then draw a card. I'm going to use the Hatscat to make that 2. So balanced or meticulous. Neither of those have logic icons. I'm going to book both of those to the bottom. And draw Homeward Bound. Move all progress from a being to a feature. All right. And then there's a crest icon. There are no active predators, so nothing happens there, and we shuffle the deck. Well, then we just have to hope we get lucky here, spend our 2 awareness energy, and try to harvest. The 2 in brackets here indicates that it's a difficulty 2 test, which means that we do have to draw a 0 or a +1 here. And we do. We draw a 0. So, oh, this also, I keep forgetting that. So, attach a flora face down. So let's remove this harm token and put this face down. He needs to have 3 flora attached to make the stew. Excellent. Sun icon does nothing. Looking at our hand, looking at the energy we have left, I would like to have the stave out just in case we need it. So let's clear our boundary sensor and play the hiking stave, which comes in with 3 tokens. But we probably don't need those right away. So let's rest up. Now you might be asking, why do you not put progress on Hype Impot? I suspect that if I do, I might clear him and then he goes away, or I might do a different kind of test. And I kind of want to see what happens when I prepare the stew first. Maybe he just stays around. That's probably fine, but, you know, can't hurt to just wait it out a little. We have a Prowling Wolfhound. All right, this is a Predator, so now I'm a little bit more alert. Because obviously, if I draw the crest icon, it could hurt Hype Impot. And he's only got 3 health, so gotta be careful and probably have to deal with the Wolfhound before doing anything with Hype Impot here. You should also be ready. The first thing I'm going to do... Ooh, this perhaps this whistle can actually be really powerful here. But I am over capacity. But we already realized that we can use Riri instead of the HydroLens goggles. So let's spend 1, oh, that should stay on 3, to discard this and put the whistle into play with 3 tokens. So now, if High Pimpot would get hurt, we can blow the whistle and warn him in time. This is also making me realize, and this is a perfect example of why this game has a prologue. I should not have this card in my deck, right? If you have Riri the Sparrowhawk in your deck, it is just better to have Riri, because unless I'm missing something, there is no reason ever to take the test on the HydroLens goggles if you have the Riri. I guess, is there a card that... there's one reason, which is that maybe using a piece of tech and gear is better than using a being, which there are a bunch of cards that interact with tech and gear, but I do think that we don't have that deck, so we should just rely on Riri. Anyway, now that we have the whistle in play, I want to put some progress on this Wool Hunt, and I kind of want to just not have to worry about it at all. So I'm just going to put him over there, and I'm just going to try to attach this Flora again. +1, we make it. Excellent. So this gets attached. We just need one more. Well, sure seems like a good time to... Oh, right, we don't have any awareness energy left. I guess. I don't want to hurt the dog. We don't have to hurt the dog. Let's just pass the turn, right? There's nothing to do right now. And this is kind of nice, right? We're only drawing 1 path card and only 1 card from our deck, so there's not really a pressure to do anything very quickly. Here's the topside mast. This is a very cool cool item, or place, rather. Enters play. High atop Lone Tree Station, you'll find a series of circular platforms of polished wood and forged carbon. During your training on clear windless days, these platforms served as a refuge. You would often spend your free time in the afternoon bathing there in the sun, sitting in quiet contemplation and looking out over the mirrored surface of White Sky Lake. You'd also look wistfully at the airship known as Swift, its hull gleaming in the sun, as Ben Amon would climb aboard and launch it into the sky. The legs of the vehicle would compress and then extend with sudden movement, propelling it upwards with tremendous force. Then, once it reached its apex, its wings would unfurl and the glider would soundlessly soar towards the horizon, steadily descending as it flew towards its destination. Calypso told you and the other initiates that it was prone to roll and crash in inclement weather, and if you flew at any great distance, its energy cells would drain, and the Swift would grow inert, unable to launch for days before the cells recharged. All this was clearly meant to dissuade you from taking the Swift out on your own, but when you look at the airship, you can't help but feel a surge of excitement. To soar high above the valley would surely be exhilarating, if not a little terrifying. Now that you're a full-fledged ranger, perhaps you can convince the crew to take you for a ride. Very exciting. It's not a Flora, though, so we can't put the mast into the stew. Which means we're going to have to do something else, and I think what we're going to have to do is talk to Riri. And take this awareness test. Oh, sorry, this should have also ready. Oh, and this flipped. Yes. Okay, so sorry. Finishing up resetting the round, I forgot to do the perfect day. I also forget to ready Oru. That's now all done. We are doing a Riri the Sparrowhawk test. We are surveying the way ahead with 2 awareness energy. -1. So we would scout 1, but let's make that 2. So we scout 2 path cards. Let's put this on the bottom, this on the top, and then we draw a path card. It is the Hanging Gardens. Feature Flora Structure. It also has a book entry. Hanging Gardens, 5 meters above the ground. You step out of the doorway leading into the trunk of Lone Tree and into the wildly swinging catwalk of boards and rope. You keep a firm grip as you make your way towards the massive boxes, each as large as a flatboat and overflowing with plants that hang from the tree's thick branches. As the wind shifts, you catch the heady aroma of blooming flowers and ripe vegetables. Alright, we have found our Flora card, which we can use to make a stew. Excellent. We have a mountain icon, which I don't think... Does this trigger? I think this does trigger, right? It was put into play as part of this test. So this takes 2 damage. And Hypenbot clears, because he gets to progress. Alright, so let's clear him. It's 47. 47. Go to 47.3. Well, he says in a way that makes it very clear that he was waiting for you to ask. I'm tired of making my soup with the same pepper pods and northern potatoes that grow around these parts. I just remember how good it can be when someone gets some of the herbs and tubers from elsewhere in the valley. He stares at you intently. I could use someone young, hardy, and already hiking around the valley to take care of their responsibilities. I would like you complete his stew using flora cards together while not a lone tree. Agree to help get ingredients or not today. If we do, we discard him, which we don't want to do because we've been already getting some things. So we'll remove all progress from him and attach the Helping Hand mission to him. Alright, so Helping Hands. You agree to help this person with a task around the valley. Do not ask this mission to the campaign tracker. If you do not help this person for the end of the day, the opportunity is lost for now. That's being gained persistent. So persistent means they do not discard when you move from location to location. Alright. So it sounds like we need to go somewhere that isn't Lone Tree Station, and we need to get some ingredients from there. Let's see what we can do. We can't attach anything right now, and this Wolfhound is making interacting a little bit difficult, so let's just end the turn. Ready everything up. I guess we could try to focus, but no, we would take fatigue here. Also, this is a difficulty 2 test, and we only have a single focus, so that's not happening. Ready everything. Put a counter here. Draw a card. And draw a path card. It's another Wall Hunt. But because there's another Predator in play, comes into play Exhausted. Let's use Aura to also move him out of the way, just in case. And then let's try to make this stew. Come on, one time. Staying lucky. Dang it. Alright, we fill. And we draw a crest icon. So if you have 3 or more fatigue, exhaust the Prologue Wolfhound and it suffers an injury. Well, I don't. I have 2 fatigue. However, High Pimpot says if there's an active predator, exhausted, do damage this equal to its predator's presence, which would be 2. Fortunately, we have that whistle, so we're just going to blow the whistle and go, watch out, there's a Wolfhound over there. And he doesn't take any damage. Because I'm finding it a little hard to pass this test without any way to have logic icons, I'm going to try to see if there's any more logic icons in my deck. +1. Does this trigger again? Does Canceling Effect also prevent it from being exhausted? Or is that part of the cost? Because if so, dang it. Okay, so he takes 2 damage anyway. I'm just going to... actually, this is an interesting question. If you're playing at home, check it in the rulebook. I'm not going to check it now because I want to keep this video... keep it up. I'm going to assume... Actually, no, I'm pretty sure that that is part of the cost. So this isn't supposed to be active anymore. He's supposed to have exhausted to hurt High Pimpot, and then blowing the whistle should cancel it, but I'm not 100% sure. So please go ahead and check that if you're playing at home before doing that yourself. Anyway, got a +1 on focus, so I'm gonna scout 3 cards. Excellent. Favorite gear, and compassionate. I would like some favorite gear, please, because I have some fatigue I'd like to soothe, and I have some logic icons I'd like to use. Actually, yeah, let's drop down this favorite gear on this hiking stave immediately. This is not a trail, so can't use it, but we have it at least. And let's go reset the round. These 2 ready. This all ready. We draw a card. We draw a path card. And it's Cordo, the Ranger Veteran. $44.1. Oh boy. Right, these 2 start arguing. Let's not do the arguing mission. Let's just not read his entry right now. Don't worry about it. It's a fun little mission. He and the Spirit Speaker disagree on something. It's pretty cute. Alright, we can hunt with him, but for now we're just going to try to help High Pimpot. So let's... Do we have to clear these before we can do anything? I'm just gonna bank on not drawing another crest icon. Commit a favorite gear. So this is 3 progress to try to add this to him face down. Come on, get lucky. Alright, yeah, that does it. Okay, so... Oh, this should be on 2. Keep forgetting, sorry. When I'm playing with the cards in front of me, it's a lot easier to remember. On tabletop, it's a little bit harder. Alright, so -1, succeed. This goes underneath. And then we resolve the sun icon. So I get fatigue. These don't do anything. And then there are 3 underneath. 47.4, right? Yes. High Pimpot starts dicing, mashing, crushing, and even sauteing the various ingredients you found, including a couple of plants. Including a couple of plants, you're fairly sure your ranger training tells you were only used for stealth horse food. All of it goes into his large pot, which he sets to boiling with the biggest soul coil you've ever seen. After an hour, he emerged from a kitchen with a platter of wooden bowls, each steaming with fragrant aroma. He passes one to each of you. You taste it gingerly, then start taking bigger and bigger spoonfuls. The soup is amazing, fresh and light, but also hearty and filling all at once. You clamber for seconds as you heap effusive praise on the master chef. He nods and smiles, but he seems to distract you. Thank you. But you know, he thinks you're well. Some of these ingredients just aren't as fresh as they could be. The gloom claps, for example. I can tell they were in your pack for at least 5 hours. And the moss cherries, his eyes brighten. Imagine how good it would be if I traveled with you and cooked in the field, the herbs and spices picked right off the stem. Discard each flora attached to high. Each ranger shoots 4 fatigue. Get all these cards into our hand. There is no maximum hand size on this game, by the way. Alright, so it's very clear now that in order to make High happy, we're going to have to travel out into the wild. And because we have all the progress we need on Lone Tree Station, we could do so right away. Which means we would choose where to go, we would travel there, and we might find some nice flora to make a night stew with there. However, unfortunately for you, or maybe fortunately, depending on how high your tolerance is for videos that have already gone over an hour, this is going to be the end of my little prologue demo. I really appreciate anybody who watched this far. Thank you so much for watching. This game is super fun. I enjoy playing it. I enjoy making videos about it. I enjoy talking about it. So if you're interested, go into the Earthborne Rangers Discord and feel free to look me up. I'm at Veronica. It's pretty easy to find me there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to be doing more videos in the future, but I can't promise when that'll be or what about. But I still want to keep making videos, and as long as you guys enjoy them, I'll keep making them. So thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you until the end of time. Bye!